So we have 2 episodes left of this half of the Fire Force anime. It was confirmed that episodes 23 and 24, they're both going to be dropping next Friday because, well, this anime has suffered some unfortunate breaks that really were out of the team's hand due to just really bad timing with things that happened in Japan. So we will be getting the final 2 episodes, and then we'll have to wait for the second half. That's pretty much been confirmed that there is another half of the Fire Force anime. It's just a matter of when we're gonna get it, and hopefully we will get it sooner rather than later. But I have to say, this episode, and just really going into something that's been here all along, but we really haven't had an understanding of what it is. This episode easily could have suffered from the idea of escalation, which I talked about with my last week's review for My Hero Academia and how it avoided escalation. This episode easily could have fallen victim of just introducing a very menacing foe and then somehow Shinra randomly powers up. Shinra may have powered up in this episode, but it wasn't random. It's been literally set up for 22 weeks. There's been so many times that we've seen weird imagery, almost like we were sucked down to the gates of hell. There was this weird foot flash and we're like, what's going on with his powers? Is he being controlled? What is going on? And then we see his brother who has somehow this ability to control the universe, and we get the explanation that's basically thermal expansion. He's sucking in the heat and essentially stopping time, which is an insane ability. How do you stop this? Well, there's a reason why Shinra's been targeted all this time. He too has a link that can connect to this holy being that, should you prove yourself worthy, will grant you the ability to truly surpass your limits. And the idea of Shinra just trying to go faster, and in return, because of this battle, was able to kind of link up into a similar way, it totally makes sense of going beyond light speed and then also the thermal expansion. Both of these abilities have literally been set up since the beginning, and it didn't feel like something came from thin air. And believe me, in a show like this, it easily would have been excusable by the fanbase to just randomly introduce something with no setup, and it would have been hyped up as the coolest thing ever because look at the pretty visuals. But this story didn't go that direction. All along, we've been theorizing, speculating, what exactly is this link, this burst? Why is Shinra being targeted by a cult? What is so special about his ability? And why the hell was his brother taking and, turn into this, crazy cultist? And we're finally getting these information and answers that we've been seeking and wanting to know, while also giving believable reasons on how time can be stopped in the world of Fire Force. Pretty much everything is linked up by fire, and the number of ways they found to just incorporate and spice up abilities, literally introducing 2 abilities that are essentially stopping time and breaking down your body to the point it's no longer there, and then when you're reintroduced, you then become reverted before you kind of went into hyperspeed. The fact that it all relates to fire is actually really clever, and I love how Victor was kind of just watching this in awe and also fear, because this is the mad scientist, someone who is fishy, someone who is, a little not too trustworthy, but at the same time really follows the intrigue, something that's going to blow his mind. That's what he's going to follow. And the idea that he's basically pondering throughout this entire battle, should he tell Shinra that should he keep doing this, he's basically going to make a black hole, which I have to say, that is such a good thing to do, is basically bring up the fear. Should Shinra abuse this ability, he could potentially destroy the world by creating black holes, by basically screwing around with time. This allows for him not to be able to abuse it in future battles, meaning it's not this OP power that they now have to escalate past. No, you can still have this really cool ability, but only use it in certain times and places, while also still just doing what we've seen up to this point. The idea that they're avoiding escalation is what I crave in series like this, and the fact that they have limitations, they've introduced believable reasons for it existing, that's why Fire Force is excelling so damn much. And to just have a character like him just watch in awe and fear, and then eventually tell Shinra, you've reached your limit, should you overheat while doing this insane ability, you're going to die. And I know some people are probably gonna come back to the idea of this brotherly love being very cliche, because that's typically what a battle shonen uses, either the power of friendship or the power of family love. But literally since day one, Shinra's entire goal for even wanting to be a fire soldier was to help people, to make sure what happened to his family would never happen to anyone else. And knowing your brother's still alive, you haven't been able to grow up with him. You haven't been able to play tag. You haven't been able to give him a hug. It's natural why he's not viewing this as a fight, but rather a game of tag. Something that he's just trying to say, this is how much I love you and you've been brainwashed. And because they have that link, he's actually able to infiltrate his mind and basically plant memories to a kid who basically thinks it's all lies and deceit because he's never known any different, because he literally grew up with a cult brainwashing him since he could literally walk on his own. That entire back and forth by surrounding brotherly love and literally bending time and space to your will, that easily could have fallen flat on its face. It easily could have just went to the tropes and cliches of not explaining, feeling like they're escalating for no reason. But what Fire Force did, and did really well, was not only explain how both of these characters' fire abilities are able to do these insane things, but they also, for all these weeks, literally months, have been building up to the link and saying Shinra could do this all along, he just had to reach the right moment, and there's a character that is so ominous, so mysterious that we don't know how far its abilities go. That is the reason that these two characters aren't being destroyed in the middle of basically stopping time and space. Like, they literally covered all their bases while also giving a limitation that, should Shinra probably abuse this ability, the world would probably get destroyed. They literally covered all their bases while letting us just focus in on beautiful imagery and really strong character writing. I loved how David Production went in and really stylized something to make it feel like we couldn't keep track. There was so many time character models would be here and then they'd appear here. That's pretty typical for time-based abilities, but they went the extra mile of when like time was stopped and we were seeing like feathers and just all this imagery that felt like it was motionless. This motionless world that we couldn't keep track of. Even if we were focusing on someone like Hsieh, who was in control of the motionless world, it still felt like something we couldn't comprehend, couldn't wrap our brains around, and that's how you know they went completely in and did their due diligence. To have an ability that is supposed to rattle our world and literally shake the fabric of time itself, to make it feel so beautiful and frightening and still, is something that a lot of teams I doubt would be able to get right, but David Production has had their fair share of experience with time-based abilities, so I'm not surprised they made it look and feel this good. One of my favorite shots in this episode, and maybe one of my favorite shots in Fire Force to date, is when we get this one image where you see Shinra, he gets imploded. He basically is getting his ass handed to him for a majority of the episode. But then you focus on Shinra and Hsieh and just the difference in how you have like these panels. You're seeing a sword up here, a sword down here. It's the same sword, but it's trying to make your brain comprehend that you can't follow this because he's literally in a realm of his own, and then seeing it from Shinra's perspective. I love moments like that and taking the extra step to make it feel like we're a human. We shouldn't be able to properly comprehend every single thing that we're witnessing, and we should most likely feel like Victor, except a little bit more of that bird's eye view because he's not being able to see the extra depth that we are, but we shouldn't be able to completely comprehend it, and it should feel like we are literally watching a motionless world having no power in this situation. And that's fantastic. I just completely love how good the Netherworld arc has been. It literally feels like it's something that feels so rewarding because it's not like something that was like a lot of battle shonens. A lot of battle shonens, they suffer from, okay, we're going to plan 1 or 2 arcs at a time, and then, okay, we finish this, so what's going to be our next villain? What's going to be our next objective? But a good author will write something for the long term, and it's not to say you can't come up with new ideas as you write. You absolutely should, because now that you've established characters you didn't know you were going to establish, you should find new stories to incorporate them. But since the beginning, this has all been about Shinra's family. This has all been about this weird angle lighting up and feeling like we're kind of bending time, but we didn't know if that was bending time or just some weird visual glitch that, would be a power-up or something. All this time, it's been building up to this moment, and even if he's able to take Hsieh away and convince him that he is his brother, there is still this cult. It's basically built around this one grand story, and then all this idea of spontaneous combustions most likely linking up to this hell space and this weird creature that we don't know what it is. What exactly is its true purpose, but apparently these two brothers coming into contact probably will unleash its full power and most likely destroy the world once again. Like, that is amazing that rather than just saying, okay, for this first little bit, we're going to focus on Shinra's brother. Okay, now we're going to focus on this different. No, it all links up to this cult, and the fact that it's all linking up to one big endgame, one big narrative, it lets every moment feel important as if it's not just the random plot of the week, but rather it is all linked up to the grand picture and the entire point of Shinra's goal from the beginning, stopping spontaneous combustion. That's how you know Fire Force has truly become something special, that, yeah, even if you had missteps in the beginning that really weren't for you, you can look back from episode 1 all the way now to episode 22 and say, there was actually planning and structuring all along. The people who may have claimed this to just be a pretty shonen of the season, if they watched the entire thing, or at least you explained to them, they would have to admit, unless they just didn't want to admit they were wrong, that yeah, okay, even if it isn't for me, I do recognize it is more than just fan service being applied to a character, or pretty looking fights, or goofy Arthur moments. There actually is a really interesting narrative, and holy shit was this episode exhilarating. Just, I'm blown away. I would say yes, last week that little glimpse of the action we got was definitely more impressive visually because it was such a short section of time, but taking into consideration the runtime of this episode and seeing how much time had to stop and all the cool maneuvers, this episode didn't feel like a letdown visually. It felt incredible, it felt fast-paced, and once again, one of the highlights of this past season of anime, which is saying a hell of a lot. I love this episode, and I'd be shocked if manga readers didn't as well, but as always, let me know your thoughts, whether you loved it, hate it, manga readers, anime originals. What did you feel about this episode, and how excited are you for the final 2 episodes next week as we wait for more Fire Force down the road, hopefully next year in 2020. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, and remember to hit that subscribe button if you happen to be new around here, and always leave a like if you did enjoy. So until next time everyone, please take care, have a good one.